I'm so grateful. So unbelievably grateful that we are tonight, unlike every other service like this that I have done. Tonight we will not be saying our traditional prayer for mourning. That no one will be saying Kaddish Yatom for me or for any of us, the mourner's Kaddish this evening. Thank God. Thank God. It could have been so much worse, and I am overflowing. Truly overflowing with gratitude.
That's Rabbi Charlie Citron Walker leading a service tonight for Congregation Beth Israel, his congregation, his synagogue in Colleyville, Texas. It's in the suburbs between Dallas and Fort Worth. Those services that you saw that clip from tonight, this is the congregation's first service since the rabbi and 3 of his congregants were held hostage at gunpoint for 11 hours this weekend on Saturday. The FBI has now identified the gunman who held them hostage, a 44-year-old British national. His family says he has mental health problems. He had political demands during the hostage crisis. The rabbi let him into the temple in Texas that morning, thinking he was a stranger in need of warmth and shelter. The rabbi apparently even made him some hot tea. But then once services started, the man revealed that he had a gun. Now, luckily, services were primarily virtual because of COVID. In addition to the rabbi, there were only 3 congregants who were attending in person. But those are the people who then got held hostage. The standoff lasted, as I said, ultimately for 11 hours. Ultimately, the way it ended is that the FBI's hostage rescue team entered the synagogue and shot and killed the gunman shortly after the hostages had escaped. That was about 9 p.m. on Saturday night. It's incredible that none of the 4 hostages were hurt, at least physically. Obviously, they were traumatized by this, but none of them were physically hurt. And yesterday, Rabbi Citron Walker put out a pretty incredible statement as to why he thinks that is. It's specific in ways that just kind of knock you back. He said, quote, "Over the years, my congregation and I have participated in multiple security courses from the Colleyville Police Department, the FBI, the Anti-Defamation League, and the Secure Community Network. We are alive today because of that education. I encourage all Jewish congregations, religious groups, schools, and others to participate in active shooter and security courses." And on the one hand, practical advice and a practical explanation of what happened, but also just as sobering as can be. He then goes on in his statement to detail his escape, how this thing ended. I could read it, but I think it's best heard from the rabbi himself. Watch.
The last hour or so of the standoff, he wasn't getting what he wanted. He was getting, it didn't look good. It didn't sound good. We were terrified. And when I saw an opportunity where he wasn't in a good position, I made sure that the 2 gentlemen who were still with me, that they were ready to go. The exit wasn't too far away. I told them to go. I threw a chair at the gunman, and I headed for the door. And all 3 of us were able to get out without even a shot being fired.
Joining us now is George Selim. He is Senior Vice President at the Anti-Defamation League. He focuses on national security and programs like the one that trained Rabbi Citron Walker about how to respond to situations like this weekend. Mr. Selim, thank you very much for joining us this evening. I appreciate you being here.
Good evening, Rachel. Thanks for having me.
What can you tell us about the kinds of training that ADL does. Obviously, the rabbi in this case is crediting those trainings in part for how he was able to escape and live.
Yeah, let me join you with exactly as you referred to it. It's remarkable that the hostages were able to escape, and the rabbi and those that were held hostage were able to get out, unscathed. Part of what the ADL does, and part of what the ADL has been doing for the past several decades, is serving as the leading provider of education and professional development, both to communities as well as federal, state, and local law enforcement on the patterns and trends of anti-Semitism as we see it manifest itself across the country and across the world, and also in different types of extremism and terrorism patterns and trends that we see. So we're really a facilitator of the education, the knowledge, and bringing together the experts to help train. Fortunately, thank God in this case, as Rabbi Citron Walker illustrated, the best and brightest of our community to help train and educate him and his congregants of what to do if, God forbid, such an incident should happen.
Is there a direct line that you at the ADL observe now, contemporaneously, between anti-Semitic tropes in political language, anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, and violence targeting American Jews and Jewish institutions?
There absolutely is a direct through line. And there was a story that ran earlier today in which Rabbi Citron Walker was quoted saying something to the effect of, what happened to him in Texas was not merely an accident. And he was kind of saying this more broadly, we cannot let comments, words, phrases, insinuations that are anti-Semitic in nature, horrific anti-Semitic tropes, we cannot let those go unchecked as a society. Because the point he made at the end of the article was not that they're in and of themselves horrific and anti-Semitic, but that they lead themselves to acts of violence. Rachel, when I left federal service in 2017, the first week I was back at ADL, there were white supremacists marching through the streets of Charlottesville chanting, "Jews will not replace us." The second year I worked at ADL in 2018, we witnessed a horrific terrorist attack in Pittsburgh at the Tree of Life Synagogue. 19, Poway, California at the Chabad. Most recently, this event that we're talking about here today. So to answer your question, there absolutely is a through line with the anti-Semitic tropes, the language, the conspiracy theories, and the acts of terrorism that continue to demonize communities of faith across this country, and specifically against the Jewish community.
Mr. Selim, you alluded to your past government service there. With your national security background, your service on the National Security Council, having served under multiple administrations, presidents from both parties, thinking about this from a national security policy perspective, is there more that we could be doing as a country, particularly as acts of violence targeting American Jews are becoming not only more frequent, but more lethal as this pattern becomes inexorable and the sort of anticipation of the next attack feels crushing already, even as we're all devastated by the most recent one?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I think there is more we can do. There's a number of things we can do. When it comes to this type of incident, anti-Semitic, extremist in nature, there's a lot more the federal government can do, as well as state, local governments, as well as community-based organizations. We can do more in terms of prioritizing the threat of extremist and anti-Semitic rhetoric, making sure that both sides of the aisle call it out when they see it, irrespective of the political party or the nature in which it originates from, and making sure that every level of government, federal, state, local, and community, is equipped to deal with these types of threats, of insinuations, of language head on, and making sure that really communities are equipped, they're prepared, and they've thought through all the measures of preparedness that they need to take so that, God forbid, an incident like this happen again, individuals like the hero that he is, Rabbi Citron Walker, are armed with the knowledge to keep them and their congregants safe.
George Selim, Senior Vice President at the Anti-Defamation League. Thank you very much for your time tonight. I'm sorry it's such terrible circumstances, but thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.